Hi, and welcome to Dollars and Making Sense, a weekly show about finance, money, and investing. I'm your host, Ray Treverson from OTG Capital. This program is proudly sponsored by OTG Capital, which is an asset-backed investment trust for wholesale investors. Get more information at otgcapital.com.au, and that's the end of that particular paid promotion. So we are brought here locally on Radio Northern Beaches and also around Australia on the Community Radio Network, compliments of the Community Broadcast Association of Australia. And I'm now going to be, now that I know that there are 15 other stations out there and growing, I'm going to be saying hello to a few people every now and then. And this one, today we're going to go out to 3MGB Wilderness Radio, which is in Victoria. Thanks for listening in. We really appreciate it. And we do occasionally get emails in as well. So this week, I'm really pleased to welcome back to the microphone Justin Bott, who is the Media Information Officer from Services Australia. You used to know them as Centrelink, but Services Australia, big cast net. And I'm going to talk to Justin today about something that I didn't even know existed. So a bit of education for good old Ray here, who's in his mid-60s, but learning something every day. So I feel really good that I'm learning something. And Justin, I guess your preamble, I'm just going to quickly read it because it gives a really good view about what we're going to talk about. Juggling your bills and getting the most out of your money can be a challenge. Ain't that the truth at the moment? And if you're getting a payment from Services Australia, there's help to manage your ongoing costs. If you're on a low income, you might be able to get a special type of loan to help with essentials. Justin Bott, welcome to Dollars and Making Sense.
Thank you very much, Ray, for having me back.
Wonderful. So let's start with Centrepay. I've never heard of this. So, hey, treat me as number one prize idiot. Tell me all about Centrepay.
So if you're getting a payment from Services Australia, then Centrepay may be able to help you. It is a free bill paying service that is offered by Services Australia, and you can choose to have amounts deducted from your fortnightly payments to go and pay for certain purposes. So you actively ask us to pay a particular set range of services first. So the money goes directly from Services Australia to those services, and then the rest of the money hits your bank account.
Now, I actually went and did a bit of research. You'll be very pleased to know. I actually went and searched on Centrepay. So, ladies and gents, if you're interested, it's servicesaustralia.gov.au/Centrepay. And I actually started looking at how many different agencies you can actually pay into. And it's a big list, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So there's around 600 or so thousand people that are presently using Centrepay to help out. And the biggest source or biggest thing they're using it for is for things like accommodation. So the main one is things like rent, but you can also use it for things like your utilities and your gas bills, paying council rates. People are able to use it for school fees, for regular payments of school fees. So a lot of, particularly something like rent, the idea is that as long as the landlord signs up, because the landlord has to, the real estate agent has to be engaged with Centrepay as well and able to use it, then I make sure that my rent will always be covered. And that money never goes into my bank account. I never have to move it across because it just goes directly from Services Australia to pay the rent. The real estate agent loves it because they know they get their payments every fortnight. And I can feel confident knowing that my rent is covered every fortnight and I don't have to think about it. It's all just happening automatically in the background.
I guess this really harps back to a show I did a number of years back when we were talking about budgeting, and I guess the concept of using buckets. Now, these are virtual buckets, I guess, when you think about it, but this is a way, I guess, that you're apportioning a certain part of your Services Australia payment and saying to yourself, okay, I know I've got to pay my rent. So if I tell the government, please don't give it to me because the temptation's too big, I guess that's a way of doing it, isn't it? That's one way of thinking about it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can absolutely do everything that Centrepay does without having Centrepay involved by just direct deductions from bank accounts or by having credit arrangements with the different agencies that you might be involved with. But Centrepay is just one vehicle that you might choose to use it. And it's that idea that, again, I don't think about it. It's all happening in the background. So it is worth saying that if you are thinking that Centrepay for a regular bill that you're going to be paying might be useful for you, First of all, it's completely voluntary. So it's something that you do if you will find it helpful. If this is not the way that your brain works, then don't play with Centrepay at all. You don't need to. You're in control. So you can manage the Centrepay deductions. You can stop it whenever you want to. You can change the deduction amounts whenever you want to. And you do it very easily. You can set it up through your MyGov account linked to your Centrelink record. You can also set Centrepay up by actually talking to the business. And we do recommend you speak to the business particularly, because the business has to actively be allowed to use Centrepay. So they've got to be registered as a Centrepay user. If they're not registered as a Centrepay user, then we can't do anything for them. But if it's one of the on the list that allows it to, like a real estate agent that hasn't done it in the past, then it's not hard for them to get themselves set up for a Centrepay user. So you can do it through the business. You can do it through the phone. You can also pop into your local service centre and you can set up Centrepay through there. But as you said, the best place to find out more about Centrepay is by going to our website, servicesaustralia.gov.au, search Centrepay or /Centrepay, whichever way works best for you.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point, though, Justin, that it's about how people's brains work and what works best for you personally. The one thing that I've learned over years and years of being involved in the finance industry, and particularly when it comes to personal finance, personal budgets, the way people are, and, my kids talk about OCD all the time. Okay. They love talking about OCD. It seems to be something with the younger generation that, I'd never heard about OCD when I was growing up because, just thought, I was a pedant, but I guess, it's the way everybody is different. And this is yet another way, I guess, that Services Australia is extending a helping hand out there, because I can think of a very good one. And given how essential a mobile phone is these days, I know because in the last week, my daughter's come pounding on IT support at home.
Yep.
Dad, please fix my mobile phone. She's in her 30s, mind you, but I'm the one that ends up sort of fixing the darn phone. But making sure that a mobile phone is paid for on a regular monthly basis, I can't think of anything more important, because MyGov application, I see my kids using their MyGov on their phone all the time. And that's a pretty crucial thing, isn't it, Justin?
Yeah, for our online functions, for not just us, but for everybody. But again, if this is something that helps you do that, and the idea that I'm just taking my thoughts out of the process, I don't have to make decisions. I made the decision and it just all happens automatically. That's absolutely a perfectly reasonable thing for you to do if you find that helpful. And it's there just to manage those payments for you and take that little bit of stress away.
Now, again, I think it's really important for listeners to realise this isn't somebody else's money that's being used. This is their own payment. So that, let's say, for example, I'm just going to pick a mythical $100. If they then decide, okay, I'm going to carve $20 out of that on a fortnightly basis to put into bill paying, for example, that's their money, okay, isn't it? It's not something that all of a sudden you're getting extra funds.
No. So the full rate of pension for a single person right now is about $1,200 a fortnight. If I wanted, pardon me, if I wanted $700 a fortnight to go to rent, then Centrepay would pay the $700 a fortnight for the rent, and the remaining $500 would go into my bank account for me to choose to use for whatever purpose. So I'm still getting the same pension rate, and I'm still paying the same bills that I always had to pay, but I've just asked Centrepay to pay it directly for me, so I never have to think about it, and it just all happens in the background.
I guess, again, just thinking out loud, I'm thinking about who might be the predominant users. It would be people on the age pension and disability pension. Is that, no, you're nodding, you're shaking your head.
Actually, well, there's no reason why it's any one group over another. I don't have any stats on who the main users are, just that it is very frequent throughout the payments and the people are receiving. It may be one of those little services that we provide that other people might want to take advantage of. One of the reasons we talk about it, but it's if you've got an ongoing cost and you think that having that process where you don't have to think about it taken away from you and letting Services Australia take care of it for you, then Centrepay is right for you.
Well, it's certainly right for a lot of people. You, if I remember correctly, you said 600,000 people are using the service at this point.
Yep.
Wow, that's a very popular service. When you, I mean, that's not a small number. Wow, that's really, really good. Okay,
Yep.
so let's move on. This again is something that really piqued my interest. So, Centrepay is bill paying arrangement where you can use some of Centrelink payments. The rest is going to the account. Is there something? And again, this is happens a lot. What happens if something unexpected occurs?
Yeah, so that's the nature of life, isn't it? That unfortunately unexpected things
Uh,
happen. And
2026
seems
is all about that, ain't it?
yeah, that's right. And it seems to me that those unexpected things happen when we're least prepared to deal with the unexpected things that could occur. But if you're on a low income, then you may be able to get assistance by something called a no interest loan from Good Shepherd.
Wow.
Now, this is not a Services Australia thing at all. This is just something else that's out there. Good Shepherd is one of Australia's oldest charitable organisations, and they've got a network right across the country. They've got 600 locations through a community provider network. And basically what happens is that the federal government has employed Good Shepherd to administer these no interest loans for people that are on a low income.
Wow. I'd never heard of this. I've never heard of it. So this, I'm just looking it up right now. goodshep.org.au.
Yeah.
No interest loans. Borrow up to $2,000 for essentials such as appliances or furniture. How
Yep.
about that?
Yep. So the thing about them is that the big tip is in the name. They are a no interest loan. So there's no interest that they charge on them. There are no hidden fees and charges either. So basically, if you borrow up to $2,000, then you repay for only the $2,000 that you borrowed. It is really important to say it is a loan. You know, this isn't money that you're going to get extra. It is a loan with an expectation that it has to be repaid. But it is a loan with no interest associated with it. Now, as you mentioned, it's either $2,000 for essentials like appliances, furniture, laptops, car repairs, medical and dental services. You can also borrow up to $3,000 for a bond on a rental property, or if you're recovering from a natural disaster. So if there's been storms have come through or the fires have come through, you can borrow up to $3,000 under those circumstances. The way that it works is that you don't actually get the cash. So if you're borrowing money for any of these particular purposes, if I'm borrowing $2,000 for a new laptop from an electronic laptop compliant company, no names mentioned, then they will pay that company the $2,000 directly, and then you'll just go up and grab the laptop that you purchased. So none of the cash hits your hand. So you can't use it for things like cash. You can't pay bills with it. You can't pay rent with it. Can't pay off debts with it. It's loans for a particular person. But as I said, we're talking about low income because this is the whole purpose of them.
Okay, so look, we're just going a little bit over time. That's perfectly okay. We'll make it up in the Slack, obviously. You're here on Dollars and Making Sense, a weekly show about finance, money, and investing. I'm here with Justin Bott, the Media Information Officer from Services Australia. You know them as Centrelink as well. We are talking about things like Centrepay and no interest loans. I love that. So look, we're going to take a short break and we'll be back in just a moment. I want to pick up a little bit more discussion on this lending agency. And I think flesh that out a little bit more because I think that's really quite interesting. We'll be back in just a moment. Hi, and thank you for listening to Dollars and Making Sense, a weekly radio program about finance, money, and investing on Radio Northern Beaches and nationally on the Community Radio Network around Australia. The views, comments, and opinions aired during our program should not be construed or viewed as financial advice. Any commentary is general advice only and does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. You should consider whether the advice is suitable for you and your personal circumstances. If in doubt, you should contact an authorised licensed financial planner. We welcome questions and feedback, and you can get in touch with us via our blog, social media channels, or email. Please search for Dollars and Making Sense in your favourite podcast platform or check out our blog at otgcapital.com.au/blog. Hi, and welcome back to Dollars and Making Sense, a weekly show about finance, money, and investing. I'm your host, Ray Treverson from OTG Capital. I'm really pleased to have at the microphone Justin Bott, the Media Information Officer from Services Australia. sometimes known as Sinling, but we know them as Services Australia these days. They are the people that bring you nice things like the MyGov application and a whole range of other good stuff that comes to you from your friendly federal government. Just remember, they're here to help, right? With a big smile, Justin. I love that. Now, today we're talking about some interesting things that I never knew about. And so it's been a real education for me. I hope it has been for you, ladies and gentlemen, because we are going out to a bunch of additional radio stations outside of Radio Northern Beaches these days. So again, welcome to our country and regional listeners from across Australia. But again, I'm really fascinated. We mentioned an organisation, Good Shepherd, which you can find them on the internet at goodshep.org.au. They are a not-for-profit charity. And one of the things I really like here as well, when looking at their website, they also do a lot of support for family violence victims. And my heart goes out to people that have to reach out for this kind of support. But I guess, Justin, this is not unusual for Services Australia. You would be responding to those kind of, I guess, calls for help quite a lot within the agency, wouldn't you?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. So Services Australia is really one of the government forces to help when things are bad. So when life goes bad, Services Australia is often where you go for the help, that money side of the story, making sure you're getting the payments that you're entitled to. And organisations like the Good Shepherd, and I do like their website, Good Shep, as a title. Can you fit another 3 letters in there? It'll be fine. But I do like their website for a lot of good information for those extra supports. Money isn't the only thing that will help people in those sort of circumstances. You need a whole lot of other supports behind you to help you manage in these difficult times. And so organisations like Good Shep do that. Services Australia also has, we're one of the largest employers of social workers in the country. So you can always give us a call and have a chat with one of our social workers as well if you're facing those sorts of issues, if you're having concerns about securing somewhere to live. They can help connect you with your local support services and housing organisations and things like that as well. So don't forget us and the social workers that we provide. But no interest loans is what we were talking about. That idea that I'm borrowing up to $2,000 or $3,000, depending on my circumstances, to be eligible for the loan. So if you are thinking that that might be something that's really helpful, again, remembering it is a loan and will have to be repaid. If you have one of our healthcare cards or a pensioner concession card, then you're eligible to take advantage of the loan. Because it's their focus is low income. If you're single and you're earning less than $70,000 per annum, or $100,000 per annum if you've got a partner or dependents, then you can also apply for a no interest loan. You've got to show. You can also get one if, again, we've been talking about family and domestic violence. If you show that you've experienced family or domestic violence in the last 10 years, you can also apply for a no interest loan. You've got to be able to show that you can afford to make repayments, and you've got to be able to show that you've been in your current address for a minimum of 3 months. So that's your main criteria. But again, you can find all that on their website.
Sure. And I guess, we were talking about Centrepay before we went for a break. I guess Centrepay would be a perfect medium for people to be able to take out a loan with somebody like Good Shepherd and then be able to pay it back through regular installments via Centrepay. Is that the kind of thing that's usually done?
I don't know on loans, in all honesty, because there are restrictions of what Centrepay is or isn't allowed to be used for, to make sure that, particularly that our customers aren't being taken advantage of, which has unfortunately happened in the past. So those not certainly the Good Shepherd is very different from the buy now, pay later sort of people that would often try and incorporate Centrepay into that. So because of that, Centrepay has got restrictions in particular about who can use it and for what purpose. So you'd have to check if you'd use the combination between the two. But the important thing here from the Good Shepherd perspective is that they're going to need you to be able to show that there is some excess money to be able to afford loan repayments. But the reality is you talk to them. So the good thing about Good Shepherd as well, and you've already mentioned their website, which is www.goodshep.org.au, is that they also, while going to their website, not only will they tell you about the no interest loans and how they work, but they also link you there to the local provider in your area. So the one of the 600 or so around the country. So they'll be able to link you to one that's close to you so that you can then have a chat with them and actually talk about what your thoughts are, what you were hoping that the money might be used for, and do you qualify. So really recommend looking at their website or getting in contact with Good Shepherd.
And I can't but help reinforce Justin's message there. And, I'm looking at the website right now, and I think what really comes through to me very strongly and very clearly is that just giving money is usually not the answer. And what I see here is a whole structure of support, empathy, people that are reaching out, I think, looking at the entire situation and saying, look, we know where you're coming from. Probably a lot of the counsellors there have either lived it or have experienced people that have lived it. Again, it's interesting. I look at a lot of the services there and think about Lifeline when it comes to grief counselling, gambling support, not supporting gambling, but supporting people stopping gambling.
Yeah.
Got to be careful how I use my words there, but I look at what's there, and again, we've had people on the show talking about financial abuse quite a lot, and elderly financial abuse, and I think people need an escape. And sometimes, Justin, I really like the concept that people can reach out, and I might also do another plug if you can mention FIS, because I had somebody, a friend of a friend, actually reached out to FIS just in the last couple of weeks to do with super and something that was happening around their ex-partner. I want to give FIS a bit of a plug because, again, it's one of these excellent free services. Over to you, sir.
So, yes, Service is Australia's financial information service. It's the free and impartial financial education. Now, on the topics of what we talked about, they're not really designed to be able to help, particularly in those circumstances. There's a lot of other support services that Service Australia can provide. But when it comes to things like, I've got the money from a property settlement and I don't know what to do. If a lump sum has come through, if the relationship has fallen apart and money has come through as a consequence of that, and now I've got to make decisions about that, and I've got a couple $100,000 in my bank account and I've never had hundreds of thousands in my bank account, what do I do with it? Absolutely, you can give the Financial Information Service a call. So just ring us on 132300. That's 132300. Say the words Financial Information Service when you ask for the reason for your call. Now, they're not financial advisors. They're not going to tell you what to do with your money, but they will explain the choices that you've got and the different implications of the choices that you've got. If you're getting a payment from us, will it affect my payment? If it won't, you're not getting a payment from us, what's the short-term, long-term? What am I trying to achieve with this money, and how can I help me actually get there? So they can teach you what you need to know so that you can make the decisions you need to make. That's what the Financial Information Service is all about.
I think more than anything, and again, I relate a very personal and very real experience. Sometimes just simply making the call and starting the conversation, I think, is 90% of the effort. And I was saying to this person, I said, you've got to view it like taking a Band-Aid off. You've got to rip it off fast, have that conversation. It's difficult, it's awkward, because I guess, if you've lost money to a scam, or you in a situation where you're embarrassed about, again, I've never been a victim of domestic violence. I can't even imagine the kind of trauma these people are going through, and having to pick up a phone and talking to a total stranger and saying, I need help. I think that's the biggest hurdle. It's like an alcoholic, they've got to be able to look themselves in the mirror and saying, I've got a problem. And I think one of the great things is start the process. And, we've mentioned FIS, we've talked about Good Shep, we've talked about Centrepay. Any one of those may not be the answer per se, but it could be the starting point for a conversation that gets you ultimately to where you need to be. And I think that'd be a good thing, don't you, Justin?
I do. One of the nice things about the Financial Information Service, because they're not advisors, when you've got the idea of, I've got money and I don't know what to do with it, but I don't know the language and I'm embarrassed to sit down in front of a professional and acknowledge I don't know the language. Well, the Financial Information Service can help decipher the sort of financial words that you're going to be hearing and explain them, so that when you do sit in front of the professionals, which may be where you need to go, you're not doing it from a position of, I have no power anymore. I actually have knowledge, and therefore I have power in having that conversation. So FIS can absolutely help in doing that. Another thing that we do to try and help educate people is if you actually go to our website, which is servicesaustralia.gov.au, and then you search Manage Your Money. We've got a few tips and tricks on that website about budgeting tools and helping you work out how to save and manage the money that you have to help cover the cost of life that you'll be dealing with as well. So recommend that one for people too.
Brilliant. Okay, and we always give Money Smart a good plug as well.
Yes, absolutely.
So look, ladies and gentlemen, Justin, we're just about out of time. We've talked about Centrepay. We've talked about good Shep today. Again, things I never knew about, which is a great education. I certainly know a few people I can point to have a bit of a conversation around that. We've talked about FIS again, which we've covered off a lot. Justin Bott from Services Australia, thank you very kindly for being on Dollars and Making Sense.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.